Hello, I am with the Texas Workforce Commission's Child Care and Early Learning Division. During this presentation, I will share information on how child care apprenticeship programs can address staffing needs throughout the child care industry. We know there are many issues concerning hiring qualified, available child care teachers in the field and retaining them to stay with programs long term. We saw this all over the state before the pandemic, but it was magnified by COVID-19. There are many solutions to the problem that TWC is looking into and supporting. One strategy is through registered apprenticeships. Apprenticeships are a medium to long-term solution to help develop a pipeline of qualified, passionate teachers into the childcare classrooms. Apprenticeships are a strategy to recruit teachers, improve their quality, and retain them longer than they would typically stay employed at a childcare program. It's also a systems building effort to begin to establish a more professional learning and practice of the workforce charged with building the educational foundation of our youngest children. Improving the education of childcare workers is a key part in the apprenticeship. We realize in many situations there's hesitancy to educate childcare workers because once they get their education or degree, they may move on to another position. But with an established local apprenticeship in your community, that worry can be alleviated for two reasons. First, apprentices can be employed at a childcare setting while they earn their credential or degree for 1 to 4 years. That's a long time in the world of childcare to have a good, qualified, passionate teacher on staff. Second, the nature of apprenticeship programs built a regular pipeline of new apprentices coming into the classroom if the apprentice leaves after earning their credential or degree. There is less of a concern that the childcare programs will have to scramble to find a good teacher to replace someone who is leaving. Childcare teachers working while they go to school is not a new concept. Registered apprenticeship programs simply provide more formal support for this process. Apprenticeships have been around for a long time. TWC and local workforce solutions have experience with apprenticeships, so there are many resources available to you. In this video, I will provide an overview of Registered Apprenticeship Programs, or RAPs, which are approved by and registered with the U.S. Department of Labor. RAPs are a career pathway that combine on-the-job learning with related educational instruction where the apprentices are full-time employees earning a paycheck from day one. There are 5 components of a registered apprenticeship program. First is involvement from childcare providers who are the employers of record. Registered apprenticeship models can be tailored to the needs and resources in the community, are driven by the childcare providers, and flexible to their needs. Second, related educational instruction where the teacher has dedicated time to earn their CDA, associate, or bachelor's degree with in-classroom or virtual lessons that align with their on-the-job training. Apprenticeship programs can offer different tracks to meet teachers where they are. The track for CDA might be for candidates who only have a high school diploma, while candidates who have their CDA might be on a track for associate or bachelor's degrees. Third, on-the-job training where the teacher is in the classroom, earning a wage and getting coaching and feedback for a portion of their time teaching in the classroom. Fourth, rewards for achieving meaningful skill gains, which is a stipend or wage increase that is incremental and built into the program as the teacher develops their skills. And finally, the apprentice receives a national occupational credential. There are 3 key players for registered apprenticeships. First is the program sponsor. This is the entity that is responsible for operating the RAP and whose name the program is registered under with the U.S. Department of Labor. The program sponsor could be the childcare provider, but does not have to be. Other entities that could sponsor a program include community colleges, Workforce Solutions, or another intermediary organization. Second is the employer. This is the childcare provider or a group of childcare providers. The employer is responsible for identifying apprentices, providing on-the-job learning, and monitoring and tracking the on-the-job learning. Finally, the related technical instruction provider. This is the educational institution that manages the formal in-classroom or virtual learning for the apprentice, and could be a community college, joint apprenticeship training committee, or other designated entity. An apprenticeship committee is two or more persons designated by the apprenticeship sponsor to administer the program. The committee identifies the roles and responsibilities, including how the members will be selected to ensure there's an equal number of industry or employer representation, the establishment of procedures, and the responsibility of the committee. A few of the committee's responsibilities to mention from the slide are the involvement in the selection process for apprentices, setting the minimum standards of education and credit towards prior experience, assessing the progress of apprentices, and determining skills and proficiencies for apprentices to advance in their learning or mastery in order to complete or graduate. While the Department of Labor recommends that program sponsors utilize the services of an apprenticeship committee, it is optional. We know funding is incredibly important. There are a variety of funding opportunities available to support registered apprenticeship programs. Providers can help ease the financial burden of higher education for teachers who are currently attending school while working by connecting them with opportunities like Teacher Education and Compensation Helps, or TEACH scholarships. TEACH scholarships are available to help students working in licensed or registered child care programs take a CDA exam or go to college with minimum debt to obtain an associate or bachelor's degree. These scholarships are open to early childhood educators who are working at least 30 hours in a licensed child care center or home and make less than $20 an hour. TEACH scholarships are distributed through Texas AEYC. TWC provides funding through Chapter 133 to support a portion of the cost of job-related classroom instruction and registered apprenticeship training programs. RAPs must have an apprenticeship committee to be eligible for Chapter 133 funding. To receive funding, your RAP must partner with a local education agency, such as a community college or ISD, or your own apprenticeship committee, which acts as the fiscal agent. The Chapter 133 funding cycle begins in June every year. You can find a notice on the TWC website when this funding cycle opens. If you are looking for more information regarding funding for related classroom instruction for adults in RAPs, contact apprenticeship@twc.texas.gov. There are also several funding sources for apprenticeships administered through TWC. The Skills for Small Business Fund is similar to the Skills Development Fund but geared for companies with fewer than 100 employees, so it can cover smaller RAPs. The average cost per new employee is up to $1,800 and up to $900 for incumbent workers. Tuition fees are also covered for a 12-month period. Eligible employees with registered apprenticeships from eligible target groups can receive a tax credit through the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program. This credit ranges from $1,200 to $9,600 for each qualified employee. Employers who hire employees who were long-term public benefits recipients prior to hire are eligible for a $9,000 credit over a 2-year period. The Department of Labor provides federal apprenticeship expansion funding to TWC to support apprenticeship expansion by engaging industry and workforce intermediaries, developing apprenticeship programs, and outreaching to new sectors and underrepresented populations. RAPs can access expansion funding through competitive request for application processes. RAPs can find these competitive TWC funding opportunities by browsing Texas Workforce Commission postings on the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts website. Finally, RAPs can access federal funding through the Department of Labor. Each year, the Department of Labor announces funding opportunities for registered apprenticeship programs. These opportunities are posted on the Department of Labor grant website. Sometimes this funding is focused mainly on states or statewide programs, so be sure to read eligibility information carefully. We spoke to a lot of early childhood apprenticeship programs and experts across the country to develop best practices and recommendations for early childhood education registered apprenticeships. The first is to find a balance between recruiting apprentices from existing staff and finding new teachers. You want to give existing staff opportunities to further their education if they are interested, but it is important to remember that we need to develop a pipeline of new apprentices into the classroom to address the staffing shortages. You want to find the balance for each provider. Make sure to think about where you're recruiting apprentices, such as a high school career course where they obtain a childcare credential or CDA. Second, think about services in the community that would be helpful for childcare providers, such as shared services alliances. Think about what services do they all pay for individually, and ask if it makes sense to share the services, pay collectively, and negotiate lower prices as a group. Third, think about non-compensation motivations to engage apprentices, mentors, and directors throughout the process. Getting a raise is fantastic, and we know that raises in childcare settings are incremental, so what else can you do? Can the apprentices become mentors or get more responsibilities? How can the mentors be celebrated for their expertise? Are there peer networks you can support? Fourth, support services to help the apprentices stay on track. This could be bus passes, childcare for their children, or any other number of things. The most helpful support services can vary, so look at the community to identify the needs of teachers. Fifth, building in feedback loops with childcare providers is very important. It's easy to have these informally where you chat with the provider and hear about what's going on well and what isn't. But building formal feedback loops to check in helps programs move nimbly and address issues as they come up. Next, we really encourage you to engage with local workforce solutions. They have a lot of resources and supports, and they will want to know what is available in the community to help childcare efforts. Finally, from the beginning, think about your sustainability plan. How will you fund staff and training moving forward? What resources exist that you can leverage? What actions do you need to take now in order to leverage more resources in the future? Finally, we have some helpful links and resources for those thinking of starting a RAP. Apprenticeship.gov and Workforce GPS are two good Department of Labor websites that offer free tools to help you create and innovate approaches to registered apprenticeships, including videos, success stories, materials, webinars, statistical data, and online training. The Apprenticeship Texas site has information from the TWC Office of Apprenticeship. And the last resource is the Preschool Development Grant Birth to 5 Changing the Workforce System slides. This resource takes a high-level look at the national early care and education workforce and gives you ways to think about different educator pathways. If you have any questions or are interested in developing an early childhood education registered apprenticeship program, please reach out to us at apprenticeshiptexas@twc.texas.gov.